I need the trio. Usually two of us take like background parts, and then he'll do the bass line most of the time, and then he says our beat.
High school, hallway to global stardom. Their harmonies were flawless, their chemistry magnetic, and their success meteoric. But behind the viral covers, the Grammy wins, and the immaculate smiles was a different story. A story that no microphone ever recorded. It's a story of silent battles, hidden heartbreak, and the kind of pressure that doesn't just strain a group, it nearly breaks it. This is the untold journey of Pentatonix. How 5 voices found unity, how fame tested their humanity, and how the loss of a single member left a wound that shaped everything that came after. And the truth behind their rise is far sadder and far more powerful than the world ever realized. Origins of a revolution. How 3 friends sparked a global phenomenon. Long before they became a global musical force, Pentatonix began as something far smaller, quieter, and unassuming. The shared spark of 3 teenagers finding refuge in music. In the suburban corridors of Martin High School in Arlington, Texas, 3 classmates were unknowingly laying the groundwork for a revolution in a cappella that the world wasn't ready for. Scott Hoying, tall, charismatic, and brimming with creative instincts, was the dreamer. He was the kind of teenager who felt music rather than merely performed it. Someone whose presence naturally anchored a room. Beside him was Kirstin Maldonado, whose voice carried both clarity and warmth, a tone that glowed through harmonies with unmistakable strength. And then there was Mitch Grassi, a singular talent whose vocal range and theatrical flair set him apart from almost everyone his age. Together, they didn't just sing, they blended, weaving their voices into something that felt larger than the sum of its parts. Their friendship was more than musical chemistry. It was emotional survival. Each of them, in their own ways, felt like outsiders, too expressive, too artistic, too different for the rigid norms of high school life. But when they harmonized in hallways or empty classrooms, the world seemed to soften. The restrictions that held them back loosened. And the trio realized something. Together, they had found both a sanctuary and a purpose. Their first brush with recognition came almost by accident. A local radio station was hosting a contest, the prize being a chance to meet the cast of Glee. Scott convinced Mitch and Kirstin to record a cover of Lady Gaga's Telephone. They lost the contest, but it didn't matter. What mattered was the spark it ignited. People listened. People noticed. And for the first time, the trio saw a glimpse of what they could become. Years later, when Scott left Texas to study at the University of Southern California, the dream didn't fade. Instead, it evolved. Scott joined the prestigious SoCal Vocals, a powerhouse a cappella group that had already secured national recognition. Being immersed in that environment broadened his musical palette, but it also reminded him of the bond he had left behind. Then came the opportunity that would change everything. NBC's The Sing-Off was holding auditions for its 3rd season, and Scott felt something deep, intuitive, a pull he couldn't ignore. He knew he couldn't compete alone, so he reached out to the 2 people who had first shaped his musical identity, Mitch and Kirstin. But there was a problem. The Sing-Off required groups of 5. They had only 3. That's when fate intervened. First came Avi Kaplan, a vocal bass so rich and resonant that it felt like the ground itself vibrated beneath him. Avi wasn't just talented, he was trained, experienced, and deeply respected in the a cappella world. His tone didn't merely fill space, it created foundation. Then entered Kevin Olusola, a Yale graduate who had stunned the internet with a viral phenomenon the world had never seen before: cello boxing. Playing the cello while beatboxing simultaneously, a skill so unique it defied categorization. Kevin didn't just expand the ensemble's range, he expanded its possibilities. The 5 of them met the day before their audition. One day, that was all it took. When they stepped onto that audition stage, something happened, something electric. Their harmonies locked in effortlessly, their risks paid off boldly, and their sound immediately separated them from every other group. They weren't just performing arrangements. They were reinventing the songs themselves, sculpting pop hits into new art. Song after song, they dominated the sing-off. Their artistry was precise yet explosive, unexpected yet instantly addictive. They had become a musical organism, 5 voices breathing as one. And when they won Season 3 in 2011, it felt inevitable. Yet victory did not bring the smooth path they expected. Instead, it delivered a harsh and painful truth about the industry. No one knew what to do with a cappella. No label, no executive, no strategist could see the future that Pentatonix was already building. Just months after signing with Epic Records, they were dropped. A moment that could have marked the end of their journey instead became the catalyst for a new beginning, a digital rebellion that would redefine modern music and rewrite the rules of success. But beneath this triumphant rise, cracks were already forming. Not in the music, but in the hearts of the people making it. Cracks that fame would widen, expectations would strain, and time would eventually expose. What looked like destiny was already carrying the weight of tragedy. None of them knew it yet, but those quiet harmonies were about to ignite a musical revolution that would change their lives forever. But every revolution begins with a spark, and this one came with a price no one saw coming. Rise to fame, triumphs, turmoil, and the weight of perfection. Being dropped by their label should have been the end of Pentatonix. Many groups never recover from such a blow, especially so early in their careers. But Pentatonix was not a typical group. They weren't built on industry connections or commercial formulas. They were built on stubborn passion, unconventional talent, and a willingness to take risks no one else would. When Epic Records let them go, the 5 members were forced into an uncomfortable truth. If they wanted a future, they had to create it themselves. So they turned to the one stage that required no permission, YouTube. From their small apartment in Los Angeles, they began recording covers with nothing more than determination, a camera, and arrangements crafted with surgical precision. Their sound, sharp and innovative on the sing-off, translated beautifully to the digital age. The group understood the rhythm of the internet, short, powerful, shareable performances that demanded attention within seconds. And the internet responded. Their cover of Somebody That I Used to Know skyrocketed. Evolution of Music went viral. Video after video amassed millions of views, and their subscriber count exploded. Pentatonix had bypassed the traditional music industry entirely, building a global audience from scratch. Their fans, Pentaholics, didn't just like their music, they were devoted to it. But behind this incredible rise, a pressure began brewing. When you gain millions of new fans almost overnight, expectations follow. The group was no longer creating for fun or curiosity. They were creating for survival, consistency, and the demands of a rapidly growing audience. Every arrangement had to be tighter. Every performance had to be flawless. Every upload had to outperform the one before. Perfection wasn't a goal, it became the standard, the unspoken requirement for their continued success. And it came at a cost. As their online fame surged, their workload intensified. Content creation became constant. Touring schedules grew longer. Rehearsals became more demanding. And with every new album or video, the stakes climbed higher. For the world, Pentatonix looked invincible, a unified force whose harmonies blended effortlessly, whose smiles never cracked, whose chemistry seemed unbreakable. But the truth behind the scenes was more complicated. Each member was dealing with pressures the public never saw. Scott, naturally charismatic and positioned as a front-facing leader, felt immense pressure to hold the group together. The burden of creative direction, communication, branding, and expectations rested heavily on his shoulders. Kirstin, as the only woman in the group, often carried a different kind of weight, scrutiny, criticism, and the pressure to constantly prove she belonged in a male-dominated lineup. Mitch, brilliant and ethereal, struggled quietly with identity, confidence, and the emotional strain of life lived in a spotlight that didn't always feel comforting. Kevin, steady and disciplined, wrestled with balancing faith, ambition, and the personal sacrifices that came with constant touring and global performances. And Avi, the deep, resonant anchor of their sound, was fighting a battle the others couldn't see clearly at first. The silent strain on Avi Kaplan. From the outside, Avi seemed unshakable, grounded, calm, a quiet presence whose voice provided the group's foundation. But on the inside, the relentless pace of fame was wearing him down. He wasn't built for the spotlight. He was built for simplicity, nature, and authenticity. For Avi, music was spiritual, a connection, not a spectacle. But Pentatonix, by this point, was a machine. A successful machine, but a machine nonetheless. Every tour meant months away from home. Every photo shoot, every rehearsal, every moment spent performing required a version of himself that didn't always feel natural. He loved his bandmates deeply, but the life surrounding the music, the travel, the noise, the pressure, slowly became suffocating. Fans noticed Avi's quietness, his reserved body language, his subtle fatigue, but they didn't understand the depth of what he was carrying. Even the group themselves didn't fully realize how much weight sat on his shoulders, at least not yet. Though fans saw only polished performances and picture-perfect harmonies, the exhaustion was building privately. Hotels, planes, buses, the constant motion blurred their days together. The group was a family, but even families break under enough strain. And within those quiet cracks, something fragile started to shift. The unspoken truth was this: success came fast, but it demanded a sacrifice none of them were prepared for. Even as they collected Grammys, hit billions of views, and sold out tours, emotional fractures deepened beneath the surface. What made them extraordinary also made them vulnerable. The intensity of their artistry, the closeness of their harmony, the expectations of their fans, and the pressure to uphold a perfect legacy. Soon, one member would reach a breaking point that the world didn't see coming, a moment that would change Pentatonix forever. To fans, he was unshakable. To the group, he was their foundation. But even the strongest pillars can crack. As Pentatonix soared higher, Avi was silently slipping away, caught between the music he loved and a life he could no longer survive. The breaking point: Avi Kaplan's silent struggle and heartbreaking exit. For years, Avi Kaplan's deep bass had been the backbone of Pentatonix, the warmth beneath their harmonies, the grounding energy that balanced their bold arrangements. Fans adored him, not just for his voice, but for his gentle presence, his humility, and the quiet strength he brought to the group. But quietly, a storm had been building inside him. Avi loved music deeply, but fame was never his dream. The constant lights, the endless travel, the pressure to perform, and the constant noise, it chipped away slowly, then all at once. The other four members thrived under the spotlight, finding joy in the touring lifestyle and the adrenaline of performing before thousands. But for Avi, each tour felt like leaving a piece of himself behind. He needed quiet,